Everyone, welcome to the Carolina Weather Group. This is the Wednesday, August 9th edition of our little get-together every Wednesday night. Happy to have you tonight. We welcome in Nash Severe Weather. You probably have followed along with them on Twitter or Facebook. We'll let the guys introduce themselves here in just a little bit and kind of tell you about what they got going on in the Nashville area. Since we are a live podcast and broadcast tonight, if you have any questions, please feel free to send them our way. You can do that one of several ways. James has all of our live streams up and going. So Facebook Live, Periscope, you can follow along on our Facebook page. Submit some questions that way or via Twitter, Carolina WX Group. We'll monitor those throughout the show. And if there's any questions, we will get those answered for you. And if you're listening on the broadcast or podcast later on, we'll let the guys share their social media accounts so you can direct any questions towards them. So again, we have Nash Severe Weather on tonight from the Nashville, Tennessee area, and happy to have them. I do want to tell you before we go around the panel, this is show number 195. Hard to believe we're closing in on the 200th show. That'll be next month. But again, show 195. So we're happy to be with you again on this Wednesday night. And let's start it off with, I'm going to go with James first because I know Shay will talk about the tropics. James, how's things going on down in the Charlotte, North Carolina area? You guys, big time PGA Championship, Carolina Panthers preseason game, a lot going on in the Queen City.
Temperature is good for PGA. They are dealing with some clouds and some rain that's been moving through, but hopefully they'll be able to get in golf appropriately. They've been doing their practice rounds, as I understand it, and then the big thing happens this weekend. That's the closest I think I'm ever going to get to giving a sports report, so hopefully that was accurate. But other than that, the weather is not too bad, but just like I said, some cloudiness and some raininess, but you know what? I won't complain because it's August. It could be 100 degrees outside, and it's not.
That is true. I actually complained about that today. I was like, we're in the dog days of August, and it's like 80 degrees and not really humid at all. So I, for one, as you guys know, love the summertime, the heat and humidity. So I kind of miss it around here. Let's toss it down to the low country of South Carolina in Charleston. Let's bring in Shay Gibson. Shay, been kind of busy, not per se. Well, I guess you guys have had a lot of rain down there, but also in the tropics, it's really getting busy from this time last week.
Yes, it is, Scotty. We're looking at another or a little area, Invest 99L, that seems to want to approach the southeast region. It's a little bit uncertain on its strengthening, but if we take a look at the local for our area, let me know when you can see this. This pretty much tells the tale of what's going on in the southeast. We have a stationary front just sort of sitting down over the top of us. Lots of rain lately. We've had lots of rains and storms. It's pretty warm, pretty muggy and humid, and we expect this to go on through tomorrow. This front will probably back through the coastline and further inland to the mid-state. As we get into Saturday and Sunday, we'll get a little bit of a modest southerly flow to dry things out just a little bit at the coast, but we still have those afternoon storms along the sea breeze to deal with. That's pretty much it for the south or the southeast, let's say South Carolina, North Carolina. And as you can see here on the wind map, you can see the northeast wedge working down the coastline to make things just a little bit more interesting, but it does keep the storming down with that cool air sort of sinking down into the area to keep the storms further to the south of the boundary. In fact, on this radar, you can see the front has draped further south down over Georgia and off the coast, but as we get into tomorrow, that wedge will weaken and the front will lift back towards the area at least through tomorrow and tomorrow night. So that is pretty much the local forecast. As far as the tropics, boy, things have really heated up lately. I'll go ahead and screen share what's going on in the Bay of Campeche, as we have now Hurricane Franklin was upgraded at 4 p.m. today, and the winds were at 80 miles per hour. I think now it's at 85 miles per hour. In fact, let's go ahead and look at the National Hurricane Center. The latest at 7 p.m., 85 miles an hour with pressure down to 983 millibars. Unfortunately, this area does not have radar of Mexico, and it's really unfortunate because most of the Mexican radar, in fact, let me see if I can pull up. I don't know if I have it, but either way, here's the GOES 16 of Franklin. You can see this deep convection wrapping around an eye wall that's trying to form an eye here in the middle, and it may do that just before landfall. But you can see how deep the convection is and how vertically stacked the system is. It's growing. It may even get up to 90 to 95 miles an hour just before landfall. We'll know in the next update, probably doing at 10 p.m. And that is pretty much for the tropics. If we look back over here, we see this area, this area of disturbance. Invest 99L. This is actually up from, it was originally 30 to 50% chance last week. And now it's up, it went down to 0.20. Now it's back up to 1050. The Euro has been consistent on developing the system. In fact, if we look ahead in time, here's the European model, and you can see the system kind of approaching the southeast region, but then it hooks it away from the coastline. So it looks like maybe a tropical storm at best with this system. I don't think we're going to see a full-blown hurricane unless it stalls or slows down. This area is very ripe where it is, forecast to track just north of the Bahamas. Very warm water, relaxed shear environment, and it looks to be pretty favorable for development. I don't think it'd be too rapid because of how fast the system's moving already. It looks like it's going at a pretty good clip. As far as this little area right here, not much is expected to develop with it. It's a pretty strong tropical wave. It's expected to bring some heavy showers and some winds to basically to the Bahamas and southern Florida over the next couple of days. So they're just circling it for a chance in this area because of how ripe the environment is. And that's about it for the tropics. Scotty, back to you.
I was going to say, Shay, that I must not have been paying attention a lot today. I didn't know that little area developed outside of the Bahamas. So, but like you said, it looks like it's going to be remaining pretty weak, and we will have to see whatever Franklin may decide to do. I know the ensembles have been kind of back and forth as well, so that'll be interesting to watch in the next week or so. Let's go out to the Memphis, Tennessee area. I'm going to bring in Eric, and Eric, I'll let you bring in our guest after that. So how's the weather out there on the Mississippi? And then we'll go into the show.
Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? It looks pretty decent here, actually. We've this is our typical dog days of summer type of time of year, and we've had now 13 consecutive days of below normal temperatures. Front went through here Sunday, dropped just to the south into central Mississippi, and last week we thought that might stall out right over the area and we'd have a really, really wet week. And actually the first 3 days of this week have been very pleasant. Dew points have dropped down in the mid 60s and highs in the 80s. I think we've only touched 90 twice in the last 2 weeks. So not bad for right in the middle of the hottest part of the year. We'll certainly take it. And looks like the outlook going out says we might stay below normal from here and points west, a good part of the central part of the country, staying below normal for the next week or two. So we'll certainly take it, and I know we'll be getting our share as time goes along and fall gets here. We start getting some more fronts moving through. So definitely not anything to complain about over here on this side of Tennessee. But we're going to talk a little bit about another part of Tennessee, shifting over to the east just a little bit. We're glad to have on tonight David Drobny and Will Minkoff from Nash Severe Weather, and they have quite the following over there in Nashville, and a pretty unique kind of story to tell, and how they got into things. I've known Dave and Will for quite a while. Like to benchmark on a lot of things with them. These guys really know what they're doing. They're the home of shenanigans, crazy Ivans, and snow domes over there in Middle Tennessee. So welcome onto the show, David and Will.
Hey, what's up? I'm David.
Hey, I'm Will. Happy to be a part of it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you guys being on. So I saw that they were, speaking of numbers, we'll start there, that just in the last couple of days, they were celebrating hitting 130,000 followers. And I think David made the comment, something about bigger than Memphis on that reply to somebody. I did see that. And we still hold true to the true math over here that 901 is greater than 615, and we'll stand by that until the very end. But why don't you give us a little bit of a background? Maybe I'll start with David and then let Will kind of pick up in here as well. How did this all start, guys? And what is kind of your modus operandi over there in the Nashville area?
Well, first, thanks for having us. Second, the current temperature is 82 degrees, the dew point 63. I think you'll find that those conditions slightly better in Nashville than they are in Memphis or will ever be in Memphis. And later in the show, if you need on the screen share part of the show, I could show you a couple of articles definitively proving why Nashville is a better place to live than Memphis. And so now to the joking part of the podcast, let me just say at the very beginning, Eric, who I've known a long time, is the father of social media in Tennessee, doing this weather thing. I got a lot of the ideas for starting this from him. I learned about NWS chat in Eric's office at Memphis, what do you got, MWN headquarters in Bartlett. Exact location.
Undisclosed location.
Yes, undisclosed location. There may or may not have been several layers of security, but again, I'm not allowed to say. We've been, Will and I have been doing this together a long time. My story is that when people ask me that question, I always say, you remember in school when you had you were in class and it was boring because you were in the Middle Ages or whatever, and then you get to the part where Gutenberg invented the printing press, and now all of a sudden there's the Bible can be distributed across Europe without the church leadership being the only ones who knew what it said. That was kind of the democratization of Christianity. In my view, that happened for weather nerds like myself when Mike Gibson developed the GR products. And when he first got his products out, I immediately jumped on them because my frustration during severe weather was that I had to wait for the local meteorologist to get to Davidson County where I worked and Williamson County where I live, which is basically metropolitan Nashville. And so I basically learned how to do it. I learned radar. I was already a weather nerd, but learned how to, operational radar meteorology is a whole other thing. And message boards and honestly textbooks that I was able to beg, borrow, and steal and just experience with it helped me kind of understand what I was looking at and helped me make decisions just for my family at the time, when to take cover, when not to. And that hobby grew. Some of my wife's friends who are paranoid about tornadic storms especially would text me and call me and bug me while I was trying to nerd out on the weather. And again, this is back in the time when we had flip phones. If I wanted to send a text message and wanted to type B, I had to press the number 2 twice. That got annoying. So finally I just said, stop calling me, stop texting me. I'm going to put all this stuff up on Twitter. And that's where this started. So this ran for several months with just a following of about 6 people, and that's all it was intended to be. And then their friends told their friends, and off it went. And I soon realized that this was not anything that I could do by myself. So I went looking for help to find somebody to help me with it. And I took a chance on this guy over here. We had lunch at the corner pub in Midtown. And right at the end of the lunch, I was giving him my Twitter password, and we've never looked back. I don't know that I ever would have met Will, but for just running into him on Twitter and him agreeing to come meet with me. But it was easily the reason why we are where we are. So I'll let Will pick it up from there.
Yeah. So about the same time David was doing, interpreting the radar and putting it on Twitter, I was taking amateur radio reports from around the Middle Tennessee area and putting those reports on Twitter. It's still a Twitter account that's up now. I think it's at mid-TN Storms or something like that. And basically after the first meeting with David, after that lunch, we decided to join forces, and we've been Nashville Severe Weather ever since. Really, David and I have always tried to keep things a little bit different. We've tried to give things a fresh approach. We are not trying to be your dad's weather forecast. We're not on TV. We just recently, I feel like, began doing a long form blog. When it first started, all we were doing was severe weather. And so if it wasn't going to storm, you wouldn't hear from us at all. Now it's turned into an almost round the clock second job for, the 5 of us that make this thing work.
Yeah. I was going to say, talk about that. I mean, you guys obviously have other jobs. How do you manage doing this and that? I mean, Nashville can have some quite diverse weather sometimes.
And
yeah.
Yeah, well, if you guys would point out too, you're not meteorologists either that are doing this on your side. You're other things.
Yeah, no, we're regular guys. My tagline says Master of Disaster. I'm in the disaster planning business. David is an attorney. The third man on our team, Andrew, is an executive in a church here. He's a church pastor. We also employ, we also work with 2 meteorology students from the university, from Mississippi State University, who help us out a lot, do a lot of the writing. We have 11 kids between the 3 of us. No, I'm sorry, that's not right.
None of them are Wills.
We have 9 kids between the 3 of us. So yeah, it definitely keeps us busy.
And talk to us, how did you go about going to Mississippi or acquiring the help from some Mississippi State students? I mean, how does that process go about?
So basically what we did was we found out that Eric had interns, and we said, hey man, where'd you get your interns? So he was like, well, here are some resumes, and we sifted through them, and we're on our 4th generation of interns now. And all of them have found jobs, amazingly. Them working with us did not ruin their professional careers and scuttle their dreams. I'm still not sure how that happened, but yeah, the deal we make with our interns is it's kind of like in the West Wing, when if you haven't watched the West Wing, hang up from the podcast and start watching. But the deal that President Bartlett had with Charlie, who was kind of his personal assistant, was once you graduate from law school, I'm kicking you out. And so that's the deal that we have with our interns. Once they graduate and become actual meteorologists, then they need to leave, and the deal is they need to find people to replace them who are better than they were. And we're in our 4th generation, and every year they give us a handful of people, and we go through them, and we give them kind of an opportunity to write for us. And then we will do interviews via Skype and bring them on, and we really rely on the interns to bring us good people. And they have every year. So the current group we've got are Caroline McDonald and Brendan Shaper. They're fantastic, and we brought them on as juniors. I was a little worried about that, but they're entering their senior year now, so we'll have them for another year. And they basically are responsible for our online content. They write every day except for Sundays when they get a break, and they've done a great job. So we've always gotten really good people from state. I have a soft spot for Mississippi. I went to high school in Gulfport, Mississippi. And even though I married into an Ole Miss family, I'm still allowed to have interns from Starkville. So they've really been fantastic, really good. They're not kids. They're professionals, and they're smart about what they're doing, and they also try to have their own voice, which is important to us. So we love our interns.
If there was anything that was going to cause us to limit our activity on Twitter, it would have been the time it takes to write these blogs every day. It's taxing. It takes a lot of time and a lot of work. The good thing for the interns is they can turn around with a portfolio of work that they've done for a place where they didn't grow up and they don't live. And, them being able to help us keep the daily blog going and keep our followership engaged is, really one of the most important parts about this whole deal.
So let me follow up on that in a couple of different ways. One is with regards to social media, and the other was with regards to the responsibilities for the interns then. What is the philosophy behind you three, the main cast of characters here, doing the Twitter and the interns doing the blog, versus having them get some experience with Twitter and so forth? And also talk a little bit about why you detest Facebook and why you won't ever go there.
Will, you want to start that?
Which one do you want me to start on?
You know what I'm going to say about Facebook, because you might want to.
I'll let David talk about Facebook. And Eric, your other question was, why don't we let the interns tweet?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the interns, but at the end of the day, they are in their early 20s and sometimes dealing with people in the heat of the moment requires a bit more maturity, we found. It even as, grown-ups, it's hard to use that term about yourself. Even as grown-ups, we find that people on Twitter really have a hard time if you ignore them, if you don't give them the exact information they're wanting at the exact time. People can kind of, I guess, get a little testy. There's a troll factor that we deal with, which we could spend an entire show talking about that. But I think we're still a little bit leery to give the interns the keys to the castle. We do invite them to tweet after they put up a blog post. If they said, hey, I've got great content and I want to put it on Twitter, I don't think I'd say no to them. But it's just not viable for an everyday thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it isn't also a lot of responsibility for them. Caroline actually is from Murfreesboro, which is not too far from where we are. It's in an adjacent county, but the others don't understand what's going on locally. They don't know all the landmarks. They don't know exactly where the Natchez Trace Bridge is. They don't know that, there's Live on the Green is tomorrow night, although they do know that because we made them aware. But they don't understand the local stuff that's going on. And we believe firmly that the reason this is successful, if it is successful, is because it's hyper local and it's people who are living in the community all the time. The interns are at Mississippi State. They don't understand what's going on here. I will say that we're actually transitioning during severe weather towards more of a Periscope model than we have in the past. I guess you'll probably ask me about that later, but that's good. I think that's the future of what we're doing. And I think that might actually be the only saving grace for Facebook. Facebook is awful because what we are doing when we're providing our most valuable information, which is potentially life-saving information or property-saving information, you need it right away. The most important information you need has to be given to you immediately. And if I got to deal with another stupid algorithm that is filtering out my tornado warning with Facebook, or is delaying a report that needs to get to the Weather Service. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I see somebody send me something on Facebook, a 1-inch hail report, or here was a funnel cloud, and I got it 3 hours after the event. That does me no good. And Facebook is not the platform for that, and I won't use it. We used to use it. I used to try to auto tweet it. I used to go over to Facebook, and I found out that, hey, 3% of the people who follow you on your Facebook page actually saw it, and I don't even know when they saw it. And frankly, it annoys me every time I get on my Facebook page because it says, hey, pay us $5 so we can send it out to another small percentage of your larger audience. I'm like, crap, I go to Twitter for free and tweet out to 130,000 people if they want to follow it. So I won't use it for severe weather. And because I won't use it for severe weather, I'm not going to use it for regular weather. I'm not going to let people think that they can come to our page to get timely information when they need it most because they saw a forecast about a sunny day yesterday. So I'm off of it altogether. And frankly, if I cared enough about it to go delete the page, I would. And if I did, I'd probably Periscope myself deleting it. It's just not the right platform. It's great for grandma. It's great for your wife. It's great for the crazy lady on the neighborhood Facebook page. I love Facebook for all that, but it's not for weather, and I wish people would get off of it. So, if I could figure out a way to make sure that all the people who follow a live feed that we're doing through this OBS software through Periscope, I would do that. Only if I knew that when I put it up there, people could see it. Because the worst thing you can do is tell people there's important information here, them come to your page and not see it. They think, well, there's no problem. They're not even tweeting. Meanwhile, here comes the storm. So Facebook sucks.
Preach.
David, I can sort of attest to that. I've done a lot of Facebook Live events from my page, and I seem to have more success with that. But I definitely have more success with my personal profile and or groups that I'm a part of. to get the word out immediately. It's the pages that seem to have those algorithm issues. So I totally agree with you on that. Have you tried patching the Facebook Live on your page through OBS software into the live streaming channels?
That's the next thing we're going to try to figure out. Right now, we're trying to figure out how to do Periscope well. I mean, I would say 3 months ago, we were literally pointing. This is my setup. I had one of those, what are those mounts that we use, Will? The ones that you love, the RAM mounts? RAM mount. I would take a RAM mount. I would go into my kitchen. I would take a dinner plate. I would flip it upside down. I would attach the RAM mount to it. I would put several books on my desk in front of me, put the whole thing on there, and then point the phone at the screen and Periscope that way. And I was like, man, there's got to be a better way. So we found this OBS software, this open source stuff, and it's actually very, very well done, easy to use after you get over the learning curve. And we're still learning how that works. Along the way, I learned that I was not the best person to do live form, Periscope coverage. And Andrew, who actually used to do some of it in college when he went to school in Arkansas, and who's got, he officiates church services at a pretty large church here in Nashville. He's very good at it. And so that's been a blessing to have him come along and do that. So I think our next kind of role, or I guess project, one of our many projects, is to figure out, can we integrate that into Facebook? I mean, I'm not against meeting people where they are. I certainly want to reach as many people as I can, but only if I can do so reliably. So to answer your question, I don't know. If you've got to figure it out, I'd love to hear from you about how we can make it work.
David, I'd like to introduce you to James Brierton. He's on the panel. He's running all this through OBS.
James is our guru. He definitely is our guru. Plus, I think, just to mention real quick, the Weather Service uses Periscope frequently. Several offices use it.
Yeah, ours does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, ours does Periscope and Facebook Live. And one of the things that I'd like to touch on that maybe not a lot of your viewers know is our relationship. I think one of the things, if we're giving love to interns, I think at the same time we need to give love to our National Weather Service office. They really welcomed us after repeated attempts knocking at their door, and I think their level of access has enabled us to do a lot of really cool things. And it's that relationship with them that we were really trying to foster. And that's why we do things on Twitter as opposed to Facebook. We really wanted as much real-time reporting from the field as we could possibly get to deliver to the Weather Service as LSRs. And that was a much more viable that was much more viable through Twitter than it was through Facebook because of those delays that we would see in things being posted.
So on that note, I'll insert here that we're also talking to the National Weather Association 2016 Public Service Award recipients for the nation last year, which speaks directly to your relationship with the Weather Service and what you do for them. Can you guys talk a little bit more about how that works with the Weather Service and what kind of service you're providing to them that ended up earning you that distinction?
That's Will's question. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that's really our baby. It's called T-Spotter, hashtag TSPOTTER. The hashtag T-Spotter program was the brainchild of Tom Johnstone, who's now the MIC in Corpus Christi, who was the WCM in Nashville, and David. They decided that we needed a way to capture information in the form of storm reports and put them in the hands of the Weather Service. It all started because we were getting reports on Twitter and trying to give them to the Weather Service, and really reporting through public channels is not always the most effective way to do that. So we were asking for chat access for quite a long time. And we got turned down, I think, 3 times. I know I got turned down twice individually, and I think as a group, at least 3 times. And finally, when we got that access, we were able to deliver these reports from Twitter directly into chat and aid in the decision-making from the Weather Service. Now the T-Spotter program is, I would say, probably the largest single source of reports for at least the Middle Tennessee area. I think if you look at a graph of what office gets the most reports, the Nashville office is going to be near the top because of this T-Spotter program. And really for us, the ability to get access from the Weather Service to chat and distribute that information to our followers, the same way TV meteorologists do it. We felt like that needed to be a symbiotic relationship. We felt like if they were going to give us this information, we needed to be able to provide them with as high a quality report as possible. Yeah, the article that David put up, I don't know if our followers can see that. We had so many wind reports in Nashville that a journalist for USA Today said, I want to see where the windiest city is. Who has the most reports about damaging wind? Thinking that all WFOs are equal. When they looked, they found Nashville had the most wind reports. Well, it's because Nashville gets the most wind reports. We don't get the most wind damage by far, but we do probably get the most wind reports in the country. So now flash forward to today, the way we run our operation on a severe weather day, and it is having a point man interpret the radar, communicate in chat, and post offensive information, meaning outbound communication to our followers. And that's David's job. My job is to take those reports that we get from the public, collate them, attempt at least to vet them, and then put them into chat. We've got a specific format that we follow when we post these reports, and we would like to think that they make a difference. And I think the Weather Service would agree, and that's one of the big reasons that we were able to win the Walter J Bennett Public Service Award from the weather from NWA last year, and we couldn't be happier about it. I was honored to even get mentioned in a room full of professional meteorologists, being that we are three guys that just happen to do this for a hobby.
And speaking of that, David or Will, how do you guys provide this? I mean, I know GR products are not free. How do you sustain Nash Severe Weather?
I'll let Andrew talk about that. Andrew Leeper, who's the third man on our team, has joined us. And I'll let Andrew talk about that.
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
We got you. Thanks for joining, Andrew.
Hey, no problem. Sorry I couldn't be here earlier, but I appreciate the invitation. So we, for quite a while, we've been in a situation where, we just sort of pour in our own money, our family's money into this, and are just sort of something we just enjoy doing. And that comes to a point where you want to do some things and you have some ideas that you want to incorporate into what we're doing that just are outside of what our families maybe are willing to put in over the course of time, because it does get expensive for the data and that sort of thing. So we have incorporated the use of, and we looked a lot at how to do this and what the most appropriate way to do it and that kind of thing. And not saying what we're doing is the best way, but we think it's the best for us right now. We are using an account called Patreon. And it is sort of a subscription type service, not a subscription to our material. You're not paying to see our material. It's not behind a paywall. But what it does is it hits your bank account with whatever you pledge every month, and whether it be $5, $1, $10, or $50. And so it allows us a continuous stream, if you will, of funds that we can, for lack of a better term, count on from month to month. And so it's not a one-time crowdsourcing type of thing, and then you're sort of on your own after that. So that has helped us tremendously, and we've been able to get some data that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise, and we've been able to look at doing things that we really wouldn't have done had we not had those funds coming in. So that's been really, really exciting to watch happen.
So to have a model like that, you really have to have a pretty good loyal followership to be able to get something like that that sustains. And so the burning question for those of us who don't have 130,000 followers, and I'll say I started before you guys, and I have maybe 1/10 of that, so I'm very jealous. But how do you get to 130,000 followers doing what you guys do? What's the secret? David, maybe that's for you.
Okay. Well, first you set out not to get 130,000 people following you. You set out to help people out, even if it's a dozen people or 120,000 people. If you're constantly worried about how many people are following you, you're going to burn out and it's going to get discouraging. In order to grow, you need storms, even bad storms. Our growth is basically a chart of where the severe storm events were. So we had, we went from, I was like 100 people. I mean, I was in church one morning when we got our 100th follower. She was a friend of my wife. I guess they're still friends, but, and they, a big thunderstorm complex came through, and some dude who was local here retweeted a bunch of our stuff. And it ended up going from 100 to about 1,000 people on one thunderstorm. And what happens is we are hyper local, and I think that's really important. We're only 2 counties. Now, there's a lot of people who live here, but if you try to cover too much of an area, I think you're kind of running into, well, I can get that from the TV people. I want somebody who's super, super local, because honestly, the people in Nashville don't care about the storm in Clarksville. So I think that's helped us. And then we've been fortunate. People with huge followings have retweeted us. We had the big event, the March 2nd, 2012 event, where we were high risk. Actually the southwest quadrant of the high risk kind of touched Nashville Metro. And we were a quiet day. Our dew point stayed 57, 58, didn't get quite high enough until a supercell appeared north of Jackson, Tennessee, and went almost due east. Dropped a tornado in Ashland, Cheatham County, south of Ashland City, which is right along I-40 coming into town. It had a nice little signature on it, and it was tornado warned. This is now at 4 p.m. on a Friday afternoon. There is a SEC women's basketball tournament downtown. People are getting out of school. I-40 on the east side of, I-40 on the west side of town, moving east, is busy. There's a bunch of people up, and here comes a supercell, what's already produced a tornado. People aren't in front of their televisions. They're just not. And at that time, social media wasn't as advanced. There certainly weren't streaming apps that people could go and get local TV coverage. So we were, I tweeted by myself on that, just on the outbound stuff for, I think on that day, it was 15 hours straight. And when that thing came in, it was dropping, I think it was 2-inch hail in some spots. I don't know if it was quite that big, but it was a huge, huge event. And the #1 radio station in the South for sports basically read all our tweets on the air. So we went from about 2,000 to about 8,000 in about 4 hours. And then from there, I'm
sorry, let me interrupt. Who was that was reading the tweets?
Clay Travis on 104.5. Clay, he's a polarizing figure. I can say he's an above average basketball player. And he did score, I think 12 points on my basketball team, but 2 of them were 3-pointers that went off the backboard and should not have counted. But Clay was a big fan, and those guys, even the other guys on there, Blaine Bishop, who was former cornerback for the Titans, and Brent Doherty, those guys are still on the radio. They're constantly talking about what we're doing because we're very, very specific to 1 or 2 counties. And so that was really, really helpful. And then you just can't miss a storm. You just can't. People need to know that you're going to be there. And I learned that you don't need to be just severe weather. People need a reminder that you're there. So that's why we do the website. I hate forecasting. I mean, I hate trying to tell people whether or not it's going to rain in 48 hours because it's just so hard to say, and they want actionable information. And I'll prevent myself from going into an app rant. Maybe we can do that later. But I wanted to constantly know. I want people to constantly know they could come to us for information. So when you get those storm days, they know that you're there. And so, man, we just have people retweet what we're doing. And then the other thing is just have a personality. If you think something's funny, put it up. I mean, I can't count the number of 90210 jokes that I put up there that are hilarious subjectively, but no one else has found funny. But I put them up there because I think jokes about, Brandon Walsh and Dylan and Steve Sanders are hilarious. That's why I do the Sharknado stuff, because it entertains me and I'm having fun while I'm doing it. And if people see that I'm having fun, it doesn't seem like such a, shirt and tie, starchy, I've got to stay behind this wall and, do this, and this. It's just a different kind of a medium. It's a unique medium too, because people can talk back to you. And so if somebody tweets at me, I try to respond to it just to let them know, hey, I hear you. I understand what you're saying, or I hear you. And politely, that was a dumb tweet. Or just, without touching the things that will electrocute a Twitter account, which is SEC football, religion, and politics. If you can stay clear of those things, you'll be okay. So how does it grow, man? I don't know. I can't explain it. I'm blown away.
I have a quick question. Nashville is kind of similar with us here in the Carolinas, the Charlotte area. What grows your Twitter account more, severe weather or winter weather?
Ooh, that's a good question. Winter weather is, man, a touchy one. I would have to say we don't have any parody accounts of the way people behave for severe weather. We do have parody accounts for the way people behave during winter weather. Check out @PanicCatfish on Twitter, and you can read some of that. It is winter weather in the South is just as crazy as anything I've ever seen. People really start freaking out 10 days out. David, who other than the interns, David does the lion's share of our forecasting. And I've never seen him more tired than after 3 days leading up to a winter weather event.
Oh God. Yeah, it's awful. I think the answer to the question is very, very close, but I think it's tornadoes. I think if, especially in the wake of the April 27th, 11 outbreak, and then Joplin coming, not even a month later, that's when we experienced rapid growth. And I think it's because people understand that the tornado can kill you. The snow will inconvenience you. The snow will cause problems, but the tornado will kill you. And people are desperate to have the information now. And they cannot possibly wait for the commercial on the TV to end or for the meteorologist on TV to get to your storm. And so I think that the spike in Twitter traffic goes up during tornado weather. The spike in web traffic comes up during snow forecasting.
I was just going to say the same. I'm sorry. I was going to say the exact same thing over here in Memphis. It's about the immediacy of the severe weather, and so definitely more people tuning in on Twitter when there's severe weather outbreak. But 8 of my top 10 blog posts all time have been 2 or 3 days in advance of a winter storm. They just suck people in. It's pretty amazing how it works.
James, I would say winter weather for us here in the Carolinas, right?
Yes, especially since you're asking a New Yorker to chime in on Southerners reacting to snow. Yes, very much so.
Speak for yourself up there in Western North Carolina now. I mean, here we got tropical systems. That's the big thing
right.
here. So, I mean, that's when my traffic goes up really high is when we have a tropical system. I think Matthew last year, wow, kept me pretty busy. Gentlemen, I'd like to get to your website. If you'll allow me to do that, I would go ahead and share the screen. And also want to ask if you have a weather app, maybe in the pipeline for everyone to use.
Why don't we, can we first, while we're looking at, some classic Breaking Bad on our website, can we talk about the gift war between Memphis and Nashville? I'm interested to hear what Eric thinks about our gift game.
What I think, well, I think that my opinion differed slightly from my intern's opinion because they were very quick to to jump in there. My interns have a very strong GIF game, but you guys have kind of built your not saying you haven't built your status or whatever on the weather information, but the methodology that you provide it is certainly eye grabbing, and you know, it's something that gets people's attention. They see personality, real folks behind it, and so the GIFs in your blog definitely are right up there at the top. And but I'll tell you what, Alex will be on here in a few weeks, and we'll ask him again about how that GIF war went, because he was manning the machine guns on that one. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about how you use the website then, and how you got it set up.
So the website, again, it's 95% of it is intern driven. I've probably written now finally less than half of the blogs on there. It's been going strong, I think, since 2013, although I might be wrong. I might be way wrong about that. It might not be that old. But there's lots of stuff like about the website that I hate. Like, for example, that little strip along the top. We're working on that thing that we pull off the Weather Services page where it says chance T-storms. That's crap app stuff that I hate, but people want it. And honestly, because it's from the Weather Service, I don't have a problem with it, because I know those numbers come from people with brains and not vomited model output data from a mysterious source. And then we're actually almost to the point of putting a new radar site up there for people. But what I tell the interns with that's the existing one we got. It's fine, but the other one we got is going to be so much better. And this website, by the way, was a disaster until we got the Patreon thing off the ground, because the thing kept crashing. We didn't have enough. I mean, I know next to nothing about how websites work. I just knew that mine would crash and I would be sad. And then it would make me mad. And so we hired a guy who's been fantastic, who's worked way harder than he probably should on it to make it stable and make it look good, because he was one of the first people who followed, and he's really done fantastic work. But this website is a project that's going to, I think, get a pretty good overhaul. But anyway, so I'm really proud of where we are now versus 6 months ago. I think it can get a lot better, and it will get a lot better as soon as we get it moving. But as for kind of the content, I tell the interns this is a blank slate, and you guys can do with it what you will. But there are rules, such as don't give your own forecast. You're required to read the forecast discussion from the morning AFD from the Weather Service in Nashville. If you're going to cite a source, you better cite the source, not I think or someone else thinks, but this model says this and this model says that. We're very big on expressing uncertainty. We're very big on making absolutely sure that we're not telling people something we don't know. And then we're also big on telling people when we screw up, which is often. And I think that transparency helps grow it. But yeah, as you're scrolling by, like those radars, all that stuff's going to get taken down. I mean, that stuff, I think even the Weather Service is probably embarrassed by what that product looks like. I mean, that looks like something from the Weather Channel in like 1991. By the way, that river stage page is really helpful, especially when we're getting a lot of rain, and you don't got to tell Nashvillians to worry about flooding after what happened here in 2011. But yeah, just how we generate it, I let the interns do what they want with it. I really do. I make sure that it's grammatically correct. If there's a typo, I want it fixed, because I don't think you have any credibility if you can't write or spell. And I think that's important. If somebody wants to at least believe you or think you're a reputable source, to make sure that you're actually putting a verb and a noun where it goes. Although I did just talk to one of our interns today about, hey, try some sentence fragments. So I'm a little bit of a hypocrite in that respect. But it's my desire for the website to be a place somebody goes instead of an app. because I think that the apps are awful for people. I think people are making bad decisions based on them. I think the apps are conditioning the public to believe that a weather forecast can be accurately communicated with some clip art from MS Paint and a percentage that nobody knows what it means. And I think if we can express uncertainty and tell the truth about what we know and what we don't know, we're in good shape. So that's what this website's supposed to be. Plus, if you're anything in the new economy, you have to have a website. Like if you don't have a website, you might as well be grandpa or have like an AOL account or a CompuServe account that doesn't work anymore. So
we definitely tried for a long time not to have one.
Yeah, that's right. We did. But it's unavoidable. I had one started. I didn't like the way it looked. I didn't have the time for it. And then I abandoned it. And then it came back to it because I realized how important it is. And frankly, in a snow forecast, you cannot use Twitter to accurately convey the information. So you need more of a space to put it. And then, of course, the other frustrating thing is, I'm sure we all have experienced, is when somebody comes to you and you've just answered a question on Twitter about whether or not we think it'll be freezing rain or sleet, and then you spend all this time answering it, and then you do a blog, and then somebody comes and says, hey, what's going to happen tomorrow? It's like, if we can just train people to go to the website to get the information, if they have questions, then they can come to us. And I dream about putting at the end of each blog a code word, like bananas or something. And so if you have a question and you want to ask us, you have to type bananas, and that way I know you read our blog, and then we'll listen to your question. And there's a lot of kind of jerk moves that I want to do like that, but at the end of the day, we have to be patient with people. They've just come to us for information, so we probably shouldn't be jerks about it.
David, can I jump in just a second?
Yeah.
So one thing about the website that is fairly recent is that over on the right, you'll see a Twitter feed on the right side of the website. And the reason that we decided to put that there was that we realized that not everybody that wants to follow us wants a Twitter account. And so, we invite them to be with us as well. So we want them to follow us, but they may not want a Twitter account. So they can just go to the website, and those tweets will update automatically over there on the right side of the website. And that was based on some feedback that we got. And so there's those kinds of improvements that really we didn't know how to do earlier on before the Patreon thing happened, and we got our web guy, and he's been so helpful in getting that kind of thing up and running. And that's just one of those features that we have found to be very helpful to the website.
Very cool. I want to get back to David on Sharknadoes. I think shark dynamics are amazing. I can't wait to forecast them one day.
Yeah, did you see that article that the Capital Weather Gang was putting around about how Sharknadoes may actually be real? Because apparently some fish got ingested and spit out on a beach somewhere. I don't know. But look, Sharknado is the one kind of vacation I take from being strictly about weather. And frankly, I think we should review Sharknado 5 here while we have a minute. I was really disappointed with it. I thought the first 30 minutes were fantastic, and then it just really jumped the shark after. I can't believe I said that. That was an unintentional pun. But Sharknado is great because famous people come on and they get eaten by a shark, and you never know who's going to show up. And so I love it. And gosh, did y'all see the hashtag on it the other night? I mean, it is scrolling. I mean, you have to stop it in order to see the tweets. People really are watching this thing.
Oh, it's a cult classic for sure.
It was really, really good. Although I don't know. I mean, at the end of it, I was like, come on, guys. I mean, they're obviously queuing up for another sequel. I guess this would be number 6, and I'll watch it. But they need some famous people to get eaten by the shark. At some point, they got to eat Al Roker. He's been on like every single one of them. And I want to see some other people go. But the Bret Michaels scene was hilarious. I was screaming, laughing. It was great.
I think we need Jim Cantori in there with a baseball bat next time.
Yeah,
Sure. That'd be
he
awesome.
would totally do it too.
Yeah.
So I got one more question. I know we're getting on the 9 o'clock hour here. I'm not sure if you guys touched on this earlier or not, but how did you get interested in weather? What drives your passion for weather?
Andrew, why don't you or Will take that one?
Okay. Well, we all have our stories, right? We all have our stories about what got us interested in weather, first of all, but also telling the public about what's coming. And I tell you, I think I share this story with I think it's Will, maybe. April 16th, 1998. An F3 tornado went through Nashville. And I was watching that on TV and saw that happen. And it was one of the scary moments in our town. And it was just amazing what happened. And it was terrible. But as a young guy, that really got my interest up in weather. I mean, I watch the videos of that day now, and I go back and I'm just like, man, that is just incredible. So I think all of us have a story, but that was that moment, I think, for me, when I said, I think I want to not only get interested in weather, but I also want to be sure that those truckers that were driving on the interstate at that moment that had no idea what was coming, that was going to impact them in a few moments. But how can we tell people what's coming when they just have no idea?
All right. How about you, Will?
Yeah, same event. April 1998. Was a senior in high school. The tornado came right down West End Avenue in Nashville, which happened to be the same street my school was on. Remember vividly going into the basement in the theater building of the school, where there was an underground area. But even more vividly, remember the devastation in East Nashville. Remember being in our service club for high school and going over there and helping with debris removal. Just the number of the thing that stays with me, the thing that I try to keep in mind when I do the weather, were the blue tarps on the roofs of all the houses in East Nashville when the tornado blew holes in one of the most depressed parts of the city at that time. That's something that really stuck with me and something that really piqued my interest in the weather.
Yeah, so if you can see my screen, this is the Nashville tornado. This was actually taken not far from where my former office was. We since moved into the Gulch. And when this tornado was going through, I was in college in Mississippi. I wasn't here in Nashville. My first weather event was as a kid. I lived in Mason, Ohio, which is not too far from Cincinnati. And there was one basement in the neighborhood, and it had 2 pool tables and 2 kegs and a television and a laundry room. And it was a party every time you went over there, except for the time we were running across the street in the middle of the night and I tripped and fell and I felt like the tornado was going to get me. It's probably where my first fear of it came. But for me, my event was Katrina. If you want to read more about it, if you just go to our website, go /Katrina. There's a very, very long post about what that did to me. We had moved from Gulfport when it had come, or after it had come, but I went down with my church to help clean up afterwards, and that's the story of this. It's for those of you who've been in a tornado debris path, or have seen something like the place where you went to high school and your family lived and something just wiped completely clean. That does something to you. On this map here, this is where the mall was. One of my houses was right here, and it got completely destroyed. And then if you were south of these railroad tracks, you were toast. Nothing really withstood the storm surge that came through. And so I could go on and on about this, but this was my event. And this, I think if this had not happened and I had not gone down there in 2005 and spent 5 days trying to clean it up, I don't know that I'd be tweeting. I really don't. This is where my sister used to work, not at the sports pub, but there was an ice cream place back here. And it's just weird that you can see clean through something that was part of your daily life. Imagine your house and the Chick-fil-A down the street, or the McDonald's, and the whatever is close to your house. Imagine it like this. It's unbelievable. So I mean, this is common stuff. And so we walked around this. It was my job to navigate a chainsaw crew through there. And anyway, this is the story of that. So if you go to our website /Katrina, that's my why. That's what got me interested in it. But I'm a weather nerd just like the rest of you guys. But this is what makes me motivate. I mean, just look at this stuff. I mean, this is my church right here. And this is where I spent all my time, in the library. On the second floor was where I spent, with the periodicals, because I was a debate team nerd. It just, every little place, when a storm takes it away from you, I just get just sad and angry and upset all at the same time, just kind of scrolling back through these images. And so I imagine there's going to be a whole nother generation of kids from Glenn Campbell and or Phil Campbell, sorry, that guy just died. Phil Campbell and from April 27th, and from Tuscaloosa, and from Coleman, and those kids in Missouri at Joplin who had this happen to them, except they hadn't moved away. That was actually their house, and that was their school. And if I can do a little bit to help people through it or to avoid getting hurt by it, that's what I'm going to do. And that's kind of my why.
That's awesome right there. That's very touching. Well, like Shay said, we're past the 9 o'clock hour. I have one last question for you guys. Well, what's the future for Nash Severe Weather? What does it look like 2, 5, 10 years from now?
I don't know. I told Tom Johnstone at the time when we kind of started this T-Spotter thing 5 years ago that in 5 years it'd be obsolete. That was wrong. I think the future is video. I think that's the future. People aren't using televisions anymore. This is the new television. And if you can deliver content to this thing via in a muted content or a sound audio content, where, because a lot of people there at work, they're watching, they can't have it on. I think if you can deliver information via the phone, via video, that's hyper local and right to the point with a little bit of personality, that's where weather's going.
I agree.
And now that Ginger Z has an apartment there in Nashville, does that mean that you're doubling in the next 6 months when she gives you a shout out?
Wait, no, really? I didn't know she lived here.
Yes. Her husband got a job in Nashville, and they've got an apartment there.
Where is in the Gulch? It's probably in the Gulch.
I don't know, but it was in her tweets today.
How'd we miss this, guys?
She's more than welcome, as you have in the past, Eric. She's more than welcome to come write a guest blog post anytime.
Perfect.
Well, Eric, are you guys going to talk about who's better, Memphis or Tennessee or Nashville, as we close out the show?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends the topic. I think pro sports. Oh, I don't know. Grizzlies have had quite a run. We'll see. You guys have I'll give you the NHL though. You've upped your game here in the last couple of years with that. So barbecue, you guys come on down anytime. Limitless.
I mean, it's really not even worth discussing.
No.
The only thing that Memphis had us on, and I can say this as a former Memphian, the only thing Memphis had us beat on was they were bigger, and that's not true anymore. Nashville has just this year passed Memphis in size, and I suppose if we are going to lose the title, it'll be because the traffic gridlocks the entire city. That might be the only way. But, the fear here is that we're turning into an Atlanta. So I guess the lesson is not to get the Olympics here, which will never happen. But, there's a lot of good people in Memphis. And in all seriousness, I don't know that I'm sitting here talking to you guys about this without Eric helping me along the way. There's no way that happens. Eric kind of reached out to me and helped me understand things I did not understand or probably would not have figured out. Eric, you've been a friend to us, and we still look up to you and are still learning from how you're doing things. And we also understand that you're a lot better at this than we are. I don't think that the follower numbers has anything to do with it. You serve them very, very well. And I just can't, I'm just really appreciative of the time and energy you put into our relationship, because we aren't, again, when we got that award at NWA, I said we're standing on a lot of people's shoulders, and I probably should, I don't know if I mentioned you, I meant to. I honestly didn't know we were giving a speech until we got into there. But when I say that you are the guy who blazed the trail here, it's the truth.
Well, and it's thank you, and it's also a testament to what you guys do, though, and we don't have time to get into the details. I'd love to, but that you have replicated that throughout all of Middle Tennessee, with individuals covering pretty much all the counties now in Middle Tennessee and serving the Weather Service there in Nashville. So to be able to take what you've done and franchise it basically out to serve the people of Middle Tennessee is just it's amazing that you've done it, and congratulations are certainly in order for all the kudos you've received, because it's definitely well worth it.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
If we're gonna grow and get better, it's because we got Andrew over here who's really kind of kicked us in the butt and helped us get better.
I noticed you said Memphian. Does that mean Nashville or Nashvilleans?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you concede that we're winning this argument, you can call us whatever you want.
Yeah, except it appears that 2 of the 3 of us lived in Memphis at one time and then moved to Nashville. So I was born there. And
I didn't know that. You were born in Memphis?
Yep.
Oh, see, it's all over now. So you guys have ruined it. Carolina Weather Group is the official end of Nash Severe Weather.
Well,
great.
Oh, that's good. Do we have tweets of the week do we want to do tonight to wrap up?
Yeah, let's do tweets of the week, guys. I failed to mention in my emails we do a tweet of the week. So if you guys want to pull up your Twitter account, maybe find something interesting over the past week and share it, you can. We'll start. Eric, are you ready? I got to pull mine up right quick.
Yeah, I got one. Oh, go ahead. James, is that you?
Okay, that is me. Hello.
Hey, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Sitting here quietly, just punching buttons. Yeah, let me go ahead and pull mine up. This was something that came out of the peninsula, Delmarva. Did you guys see that tornado? I'm sure you did. It made national news earlier in the week, but this was just great surveillance footage of it making its way across the parking lot. So this was a retweet. We'll give credit to the actual source here in just a second, but watch the bottom of the screen. If you can see my mouse, boy, it is trying to buffer. We're going to have a car come into frame and flip on over here as the tornado came on through, and you would just happen to know it that, of course, the media cannot be played at this time. So head on over to Twitter and check out Daniel Johnson WX, because he has the original media, and I promise it plays much better on his Twitter profile than mine.
I thought you were doing a good job stretching there, James. Good job.
I was trying.
That was an impressive video. I have looked at that a couple of times and one of those. It's like watching a car crash over and over again. You can't turn away. It's a good one. I will share here. Let's see. Sorry, taking me a second.
Jeez, Eric, come on!
Okay,
mine was so quick and so functional.
I actually have. I'm gonna pull 2 of these, and this is from our earlier GIF war. This is my GIFs of the week. This is the one that kind of, I think, lit the fire that had the spark at the very beginning when my intern Alex jumped in and decided that he had something to say about the whole "Who's the GIF King" thing. As in fact, I just watched that movie recently, probably 3 weeks ago, and so that one really hit home. And then I got to also give a shout out because I have great interns and they have impeccable timing. Adam was another one that we had that is one of my interns, and he's been working full time up in DC this summer. Hasn't really been as involved. But he saw this going on, and he walked in, and he just came up with the sorry I'm late. And I got to admit, it's lame, but I was rolling on the floor laughing when he comes in the middle of all of this that we were doing and just, casually walks into the conversation. So I thought that was pretty hilarious. Anyway, has nothing to do with weather.
That's okay. They don't have to be.
No part of the segment necessarily has to.
That's right. Here's my tweet of the week. This from Jeff Piotrowski. This was the tornado that went through Tulsa, Oklahoma. Kind of odd timing for the tornado. A lot of debate on Twitter and weather Twitter about this tornado, but needless to say, this was the 18-story Remington Tower. As you can see, numerous windows blown out, even some damage to the side of the building there in Tulsa. So pretty strong tornado. I think it was rated EF2 on the high-end scale of that. As they say in Oklahoma, all months of the year, tornado season out there. Anybody else? Shay, you got one?
Yeah, I do. Let's see. This one I just did a little bit ago. The more impressive just popped up here. This is Hurricane Franklin getting ready to make landfall in Veracruz, Mexico. And you can see on the GO-16 just the impressive outburst, the overshooting convection plume out the top of the system. It shows rapid strengthening. In fact, this might be considered a rapid intensification phase, but as it moves into land in the mountainous zones of Veracruz, it's probably not going to be able to do very much more than what it is now. Last winds were 85 miles per hour. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go 90 to 95 for a strong Category 1, but the system looks very impressive. I mean, you can see in some of the details. So what I love about GO-16, this gravity rippling effect that shows rapid cooling out the top, outflow, very healthy outflow for the system. The only thing it's lacking is a strong eye wall, but very impressive. You know, just as the sun goes down and seeing something like that barrel into the Veracruz coast, very impressive indeed.
All right, David.
All right, I've got one.
All right, go ahead, Will.
Memphis was faster.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, let me hit my screen share here. Say that. So this was mine for the week. What I think has to be the funniest.
Man, that thing launched.
It's gone.
Boy.
It really did.
Vortex dynamics in that backyard inside the fence area. Wow.
Somebody somewhere reported that as a UFO.
Where is that?
Unknown place, unknown time.
Wow.
Good thing
So
the
is it
kids went
real?
on it.
And maybe is it? Are you sure it's not Nashville since you guys are the windiest city?
It could be. Could be.
We call those God's Frisbees over here. Always the first thing to go. Here, I'll show mine, and then Andrew, you can come after me. This is just one of the thousands of tweets with this map on it. Just a friendly reminder that if you want to go into the path of totality of the eclipse, you can't go to Memphis to get it. Coming over to Nashville, we've got everything. I mean, if this is not yet another reason why Nashville is superior, I don't know what is. I mean, God has basically decided, you know what? They're cool. I'm going to give them the path of totality, and we're going to leave Memphis out of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're closer in 2024.
Well, I mean, by then the world might not still be here.
Well,
Watch the news.
Yeah, I wasn't going to ask your question about how you think nuclear winter is going to affect climate change. We won't go there.
Sounds cold. Nuclear winter.
All right, Andrew.
It does. Okay. Hey, I don't have a screen share because I'm looking at this on my other computer. Apologize. But Rick Smith tweeted something. This goes back to the Tulsa, Oklahoma tornadoes. He said, last night storms remind us Oklahoma tornado season runs from January 1st through December 31st. Storms don't use a calendar. And that has been so true here in Middle Tennessee. I mean, we had a record number of tornadoes in July of like 2015 around here. That was just incredible. We had a day where we had numerous tornadoes right here in the metro area, and you just can't ever let your guard down. And we figured that out the hard way that day, but it's true everywhere. And so that was just a tweet that stood out to me this week from Rick over in Oklahoma City.
Is this the one from National Weather Service Tulsa?
This was a tweet specifically from Rick, but same kind of thing. There have been multiple messages, same kind of thing over this past week. You just, you never know.
Right. Yeah, I was trying to grab it for you. I didn't know if it was recent or last.
Yeah, this was from Sunday, I believe.
Sunday
from Rick, the 6th.
I remember seeing it.
Hang on.
Yeah.
11:26 a.m.
Right. Yeah. Well,
I wish I could pull it over for you, but have a look.
That's all right. Eric, you want to?
Yep.
We're excited about our partnership with you guys. Kind of give us some updates on that.
Yep, absolutely. So just a reminder to everybody that the Stormwatch Plus app, which if there is one app that the Nash Severe Weather folks actually do recommend, it is this one, and we're glad to have a partnership with them as well. Remind everybody that Stormwatch Plus is your severe weather warning app. Available for iOS right now. We're actually had a discussion with the app developer about a week ago, and we're looking at some plans for this fall to be able to expand this, definitely get it into the Android community, as well as some other exciting things too. So if you're looking for an app that will warn you when you are in the polygon and not when you're not, make sure that you check out Stormwatch Plus for your iOS devices. And when you download that and get the in-app upgrade that gives you the alerts, make sure that you put in the referral code Carolina, unless you're listening from Nashville, and then we'd be glad to have you put in NashSevereWx in there as well. Either one of those, we're thankful for everybody who checks out the Stormwatch Plus app and uses that to keep their community, themselves and their family members and everything safe during severe weather.
All right, very good. Well, we are running out of time. Thank you for watching the Carolina Weather Group tonight. I'll give you a quick rundown. Next week, our show, I'm not sure about. Shay and I have not been able to reconfirm with our guests for next week. But after that, August 23rd, we have reporting from the disaster zone. Reynolds Wolf from the Weather Channel will be joining us. He's going to be talking to us about just some of the stories that he's covered while covering it for the Weather Channel. And then on August 30th, we're going to be talking about precipitation percentages and how that is confusing to the general public. Brad Panovich is our guest for that as well. So thanks for watching tonight on the Carolina Weather Group. We hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here next Wednesday night.